This is a live presentation of the Titan Upload Network.
The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining us on this Monday evening. The divisional round is in the books, and what a round it was. We had some pretty amazing games. Another slate of football on the horizon this upcoming week. Championship week is upon us. So before we get to that, we have got a lot of games to talk about. But yeah, I can stretch 4 games out an hour. I'm that good, so no worries. But great seeing everybody in on the show tonight. We have got a lot to talk about. But first, and as always, we have a very special guest joining us tonight from Chatt Tenn Sports. We know him very well from his Twitter feed, and he stays busy. One of my favorite up-and-coming talk show hosts and podcast hosts, which he definitely has a talk show voice, but I'll give him credit for that. Let us welcome Tres Winn. Trey, welcome to the bar.
I appreciate you having me, sir. It's so good to be with you. I feel like I should have gone for the Chris Collinsworth, slide in or whatnot. But, man, yeah, like you said, a ton of football to talk about, and it's good to be here with you. I appreciate you having me.
Glad having you on the show. But before we dive into our top news, definitely a lot of subjects to get to. So I figured there's always a little bit of room to see what's going on, especially after the aftermath of what happened during the week. Pretty interesting for Kansas City side. We all know Patrick Mahomes suffering a high ankle sprain, and this is definitely going to be a situation that's going to be monitored throughout the week. So realistically, what are the Chiefs going to have to do in order to keep him prepared for the upcoming week with the Bengals on the schedule?
Yeah, I think that's the big complicated question for the Chiefs, because I honestly thought when that happened, when he went down, and we knew it too well as Titans fans, when Tannehill not once but twice went down with a high ankle sprain, tried to recover, like even Jeff Simmons said he was shooting up his ankle since week 8. You know that those injuries, especially tendons, obviously ligament issues, but those high ankle sprains are just about as complicated as the old hamstring tweak that has kept so many Titans out and so many DBs out, especially Christian Fulton, David Long with the groin, things like that. But, I mean, here now, the Chiefs have to be the Chiefs regardless, because we saw Chad Henne come in, and we saw him take it down the field, and they did well, But at the same time, you saw Patrick Mahomes talking to Andy Reid and a team physician or whatnot, saying, hey, we probably at least should wait till halftime or whatnot. And Mahomes was saying, we got to go. My expectations, I know it's what they're -1 right now at Arrowhead, which I'm a little surprised to see. But what did you think, Michael, as far as, seeing Mahomes go down and the expectations going forward in the playoffs?
Well, I'll give my respect to Chad Henne, the very elder statesman of the Kansas City Chiefs, for stepping in and handling business. So I'll make sure he gets his props for that. And second, you could definitely see the frustration on his face. Andy Reid was basically trying to get him in the locker room, get him evaluated so they can make a better determination on whether he should play the rest of the game. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, I don't think it was enough to keep him held back. So realistically, going forward, we know this Cincinnati defense is kicking in at the right time, and that's really one of the things I'm worried about. So what's one of the things that we would have to see this defense do this week in order to try and continue their long streak against the Kansas City Chiefs?
I think it's very similar to the Chiefs' offense. They have to be the same defense that they've been, and especially they're making the plays. We've seen Trey Hendrickson, now taking a 98-yarder back or whatnot, and having to get some oxygen afterwards, and then yesterday scooping up a big fumble, and they created turnovers, and that's always a huge thing in these slim margin games. Like, again, we've seen the Titans get to the divisional round against the Bengals, and they're able to score really at will. But when their defense is out there playing the way they have been playing, I mean, that's championship football. Because a few bad play calls from Todd Downing that led to interceptions and Tannehill throwing interceptions, That's how slim it is, because they were even 9 sacks that they got on Joe Burrow. It still wasn't enough. So I mean, the turnovers, the pressures, and like they always say that the sack is kind of the most oversold stat out there, because quarterback pressures and what Jeffrey Simmons doesn't do statistically on a play, he's still impacting the play just being on the field, right? Like there's so many other things that have to happen, but those guys have to continue doing what they're doing, because Joe Burrow, I mean, as long as you hold a team to 20 points, Joe Burrow's going to put you in a position to win, to just to flat out score points, because we've seen it from Jamar Chase, we've seen it from T. Higgins, we see it now at Hayden Hurst is jumping over people and making incredible plays. So that's a team to be feared, in my opinion, and especially a wounded animal in the Chiefs with Mahomes getting the high ankle sprain.
Agreed. And before getting into our top news, you bring up offensive coordinator Todd Downing. Of course, the Tennessee Titans still looking for their new offensive coordinator, but things should move a little quicker now with the GM in place. So
Right.
with the names circulating around right now, who's one of your favorite names at the moment for the offensive coordinator position for the Titans?
So, in a similar fashion that I did with Ran Carthon as the GM, I have kind of out of the gate my guy I'm cheering for. I think it makes sense as far as familiarity. He's currently on staff with Art Smith, that we all know very well. But Charles London is a guy that I would say, for what he would know, coming from his background, his experience, he's been all over the offensive side of the ball. He's seen Art Smith's offense run and been able to sit on those meetings. Again, that has been very similar to what the Titans are doing right now, or have been doing. But to me, the big question right now is the golden question of, is now the time that the Titans are going to evolve the offense into a pass first versus a run heavy offensive attack, and allow, we're seeing these high powered offensive teams at the top. And like we saw yesterday with the Bills, they could not get it going because good defense was snuffing out what they're able to do. And here's the unfortunate part for the Titans. They have been a one-trick pony this year with Derrick Henry on offense. If you can stop King Henry, you will beat the Tennessee Titans, because we were not able to score more than a 24-point average. I think at the most we scored 27. But it's a big question for where they want to take this team. Vrabel's been vocal about wanting to be faster. He wants to be able to get, obviously, Ryan Tannehill as healthy as possible and back. They've communicated, and all points, all thoughts, and messages we've received so far from Ran Carthon is that he will evaluate. But Derrick Henry is who Derrick Henry is, and you can't just let that go. You can't just abandon it completely, because he still has to learn this team in the offense. So Charles London's a guy that I would like to see them go after and interview. He'll be the offensive coordinator at the Senior Bowl, which is obviously a huge time to get to know talent, kind of see them in practice, and could be a good thing for them. Obviously, they'll have scouts and probably Ran Carthon on site. But, Charles London's a guy. And I also saw an interesting name pop up today as tight end coach right now for the Titans, Luke Steckel, whom when I was a freshman, he was a senior state championship football player. His dad was an offensive, genius. I think he coached in the NFL, but that year they won the state championship. He was the offensive coordinator. Great guy, but I've seen him, I think, with the Chargers, had an interview. So he could be a guy, and it's weird. The Titans have had Art Smith, Todd Downing, both were promoted from tight end to offensive coordinator. And I think it was you on Twitter today that said that Malarkey was also, or someone else said that Malarkey was also hired from tight ends coach to head coach.
That's right.
So Titans like pulling from the tight end spot for the offensive side of the ball. So we'll see if they continue that trend.
And an interesting trend it continues to be if that's the way the Titans decide to go going forward. But we'll definitely have to talk about that, especially in one of our upcoming segments with Ran Carthon. A lot to talk about, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody piling in the chat. Get to your comments real quick before we get our top news going. Shout out to Brad Newberry. We had him on the show yesterday. Fortunately, we had some technical difficulties. Great seeing you on the show, Brad. Always good. Ryan Harris of the Jump Pass Podcast. Make sure you check him out. One of our members of the Titan Upload Network. Always doing good stuff and putting out new content. Titan Fox says, if Allen can't take the Bengals down, I honestly think with Mahomes, we might be looking at Cincinnati in the Super Bowl again.
Mm-hmm.
And Trey, your thoughts on that real quick?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us, including Josh Allen, I think we were really believing the Bills, it was this romantic, poetic, destiny-like, run. Obviously, the Damar Hamlin story, his recovery, and just kind of invigorating his teammates, having been on, I think in the facility through the last few weeks or whatnot, or last week, excuse me. But it looked like they just could not get it off the ground, and it was like just trying to take off for launch, and it just all systems were not go. You saw frustration from Stephon Diggs, and it's the fact that again, like I think people still look at the Bengals thinking that offensive line is still an issue, which they played quite well yesterday. And again, like Titan Fox is saying, it all boils down to the offensive line. I watched the Bengals O-line during the Bills game, and they were so solid and gave Burrow and his weapons time to operate. Mixing chances, and also mixing chances to move the balls. Here's the thing about this. We're talking about the Titans, and we can kind of point back to them. The Bengals have a multi-dimensional offense, a multiple offense, if you will. Like Vrabel's talking about multiplicity and things like that. They've had no pass catchers, right? They've had limited options with tight ends because for a while there, Jeff Swain was the best blocking tight end on the team and getting more snaps than he needed. But they've had limited options offensively. They've put their bell on Derrick Henry and said, take us to the promised land. And this year they just couldn't do it through all the issues that John Robinson had, right? So I mean, my thought is, like these teams, they are just so dangerous. And again, we all thought the Bills. I thought the Bills personally were going to take the whole thing this year, but big team, good team, big giant heart, fall hard kind of thing. They are a great team, and it's a big upset. But I mean, they're dangerous whenever they're sleeping under that radar like the Bengals have. So what did you think about? I mean, would you agree with Titan Fox's comment as far as Allen and now the Bengals and offensive line issues there?
Well, I think it's really going to be a situation where they're going to have to just evaluate next year whoever's going to stay and whoever's going to go. It's really interesting, especially with a lot of situations that the team's going to continue to just monitor, especially with players heading into free agency. I would basically have to assess that at the moment, the Bills, this was their window. Mm-hmm. Now, is it shut? I don't think it is, but it's going to get smaller going into next year because everybody's going to make moves. No one's going to stay the same. That's just how it is in the NFL. So realistically, you're looking at a slew of teams that are going to try and just improve throughout free agency, throughout the draft. And it's basically that scenario. But, I mean, we'll definitely catch up with that going into our top news segment. Yep. But, of course, glad having everybody in on the show. We won't waste another minute. So let's jump into our top news right now. I'm Michael Bishop of the Power Hour, so let's get into it. And as, of course, we talked about earlier, Kansas City easily handled the Jacksonville Jaguars, especially with a Patrick Mahomes with a high ankle sprain. It was the most interesting game Saturday night out of the two that were playing. And definitely I have to give my respect to Andy Reid. Andy Reid is coaching on another level right now. Taking the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs to 5 trips to the championship weekend. 20 postseason wins. Andy Reid is truly just on an offensive level that most coaches only dream about, or we even saw in just a heyday. And I'm grateful that we get to see Andy Reid and just his offensive mind at how just precise and just how engaging he has made these offenses and really just stamped his name and approval on them. So, Trey, realistically, Andy Reid's more likely going to go to the Hall of Fame. Andy Reid's more likely going to be in 2 Rings of Honor. So what is it that has made Andy Reid so dynamic and just so frustrating to a lot of the defensive coordinators throughout the years?
Yeah, well, first off, I want to acknowledge the fact that Andy Reid recently, after learning that they were going to be playing in Germany, he said, "I can't wait to try the bratwurst." So as the Burger King, as the header says here, he lives up to his name with his inner fat kid, like I know too well. He is looking forward to the bratwurst. No, I think Andy Reid, like you see recently in football history, the parting of ways of Tom Brady and of Bill Belichick. We both thought, like, who's the one that brought the magic to the table? Who's the one that's had the success? And obviously, Bill Belichick is a Hall of Famer even before all 6 of those Super Bowls, just because his lineage goes way back in the time of history, coaching, obviously ties to Bill Belichick and so on and so forth. But he's not proven the ability to do it at a high level like Andy Reid has without a Tom Brady quarterback, without a guy who can just take over a game. Because Mac Jones, obviously, he's had his issues. You go back in time with the Browns, even one of their playoff years, I think it was Bernie Kosar was their quarterback. Pretty solid quarterback, but again, not a game-changing quarterback. Andy Reid's done it with Donovan McNabb. Really talented quarterback, don't get me wrong. But it's one of those things, here and now, he's had another generational talent that we've talked about in Patrick Mahomes. He's landing on guys, but he's been able to do it consistently throughout the years and throughout the stints that he's had in Philadelphia and now in Kansas City. I remember in the 2009, 2010 range, and before the empire of the Big Red, if you will, of Andy Reid going to Kansas City, they were the middle of the pack AFC team, right? But again, great coaches, great GMs, which makes me very optimistic for Ran Carthon to be coming here. When the talent is there, because again, even this year, Juju Smith-Schuster, I mean, he's played great for them. I think he's done his role. He's played his job. I've not studied his tape, so don't come at me in the comments or on Twitter if I'm misspeaking there. But he is able to use guys to their strengths, and they play that role because, again, I think when guys they're not trying to make the home run play every time. They can go past the sticks and get the first down and earn their money and do those things. He's elevated players because the good players he has get the ball, So I think we could talk about the Titans on a lot of these topics because we have so many issues on so many different sides. But that's why the Titans need an effective play caller offensively if we want to keep up with these big teams like old Big Red Burger King right here and the Chiefs and the Bills and the Bengals now, because we don't want to be on the outside again when the Peyton Mannings and the Bradys are dominating the NFL, right? We want to be at that top. And it tells me that all things Tennessee Titans, they're pointing this ship in that direction as fast as they can.
And of course, Andy Reid continues to put on a dominant performance with his play calling sheet. And, throughout history, he's had a lot of talented quarterbacks, as you've said. You've had your Donovan McNabbs, your lesser Kevin Cobbs, and of course, your offensive coordinator stint with Brett Favre even. So when you rank head coaches with an offensive pedigree, where would you put Andy Reid?
Would you say currently playing or just, are we talking in the history of the NFL?
You know what? Let's go all time.
Oh, mate. I would definitely think he would be up there just again, I think the ability to go from one place to the next and have the same type of success and stay at the top. That's not, I think a lot of times people put so much emphasis on championships, but winning is the biggest thing that matters at the NFL level because you can see with, teams like the Texans, they've fired 4 coaches in 4 years because they're not winning, right? And then on the Titans side, a lot of the issues that we had this year were covered up because they were at one point 7-3, and then the bottom fell out and everything went south because that roster was not built to hold that type of, those types of issues. But as far as all time, I'm thinking in this day and age, because here's the tricky part. The McVays, the Shanahans, the younger generational coaches of this era that are making this game so, fast-paced and big bomb, home, NFL blitz style passes where you're getting 50 yards in the air and all that. This is a newer era thing that we're evolving into, but Andy Reid has done it everywhere he's gone. He's been able to have the stable running backs, the solid tight end, and the good receiver that can go, but he's had a great quarterback to do it. But man, it's hard to say overall, just because I think so many times you can have a great coach and a mediocre quarterback. I hate to say it, but Doug Peterson right now deserves a lot of the clout he's getting just simply because he took I'm thinking of his more inappropriate name, but But Nick Foles took Nick Foles and the Eagles to the Super Bowl to beat the big bad Patriots, right? Now he's gone and taken the dead corpse of the Jaguars, and I mean they surprised me as far as making it that deep in the playoffs. But I think we all saw them coming. And I see Bradley Newberry in the comments saying Dick Vermeil was a coach back then, I believe.
That's right, with the Priest Holmes and Tony Gonzalez.
Oh, was he? Okay. Gotcha. Was there during the Priest Holmes and Tony Gonzalez years after? I think he was after that because, yeah, it's more of this recent era. I want to say he took over like 2010.
I honestly think it was about 2013.
Really?
Because I remember Reed was getting burned out with Philly, and that's right when Chip Kelly came in. So I think Reed might have been...
According to the interwebs.
And at that time, people were really banging on the Chiefs for making that hire because they felt Andy Reid just lost the magic. But turns out it was just a rejuvenating job for him.
Well, it reminded me of how, Mark Richt was at University of Georgia for so long, and they were at that 9-10, game or wins per season bracket. But they want to go to the next level because Nick Saban's coming around the corner. And people thought, Mark Richt wasn't too great a coach, but going down to Miami, he had success. But good coaches win, man. And I think Andy Reid, he is as much, as Patrick Mahomes is going to have talent on the field. He's drawing up incredible drives, incredible plays, all the above that. I mean, so many teams want to be able to do, and it's just not it's not an easy thing to do at all by any means, even at the 32 team level in the NFL.
Andy Reid taken 2 of those teams out of the 32 teams in the NFL and have made them into contenders with his tenure there. No doubt about it, Andy Reid, a true great offensive mind of the game. Moving on to our next game on Saturday night, it was definitely one of the ones I kind of felt could potentially have upset written all over it. But unfortunately, this one just came back and punched me in the stomach. As we can tell, the Philadelphia Eagles, well-rested under Coach Nick Sirianni, getting his guys hyped up by playing 8 Mile to inspire them and get them revved up. And boy, did it rev them up, Trey.
It worked.
So let's just start at the beginning and just talk about the Giants in this game. We all felt that Brian Dable's done a fantastic job with the New York Football Giants, and they're going to have a lot of big questions going forward. But what went wrong for them in this game, particularly?
I mean, it seemed pretty early on, from the first 2 quarters that Philly was just having their way. I don't know that I could give you a full breakdown as far as the defensive issues. I thought receiving, passing the ball, I thought they had their way from, Goddard getting, I think he was a part of one of the more famous of the week bets that was getting passed around on Twitter. I think he was a part of a first touchdown parlay where he had 4 guys. But anyways, I think he had a great game. But Jalen Hurts, I mean, they were able to have 2 rushers, Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell. Gainwell with 112 yards, and then Sanders with 90 yards. Obviously, Jalen Hurts having 34. They were able to play their game. And then, by the way, you got to stop Devontae Smith, and you got to also stop A.J. Brown and try and we all know this, old tight ends that can just creep underneath and get the conversions like Dallas Goedert did. Yeah, man, I think, like you said, I mean, Dable has a great story going, and he has a great thing going there, and it's good to see, we got to see, and we'll talk about the 49ers and the Cowboys, but just some old school powerhouse football teams like the Giants and the Eagles. It's like a 1970s, 1980s matchup type game of old where they're competing. But Philly, I'm going to say this, man. Philly is what the Bengals are on the opposite side of the division or of the conferences, right? They are. I hope we get to see that just knock out, drag out slugfest of an offensive game. But then again, some of these teams this week, and again, I don't want to get too far ahead with the 49ers conversation, but just couldn't get things rolling offensively, and you just never know when that could hit. So I thought, like you said, that Eagles could come off of that first round bye and be a little rusty, but they seem to be quite lubricated and ready for machine action kind of thing. So yeah. Very impressed by the Eagles this week.
I can see you're impressed because it looks like you definitely rated Nick Sirianni's wardrobe.
I almost wore the Titans beanie tonight just because my hair's getting like crazy long. I gotta figure it out, but yeah, I think Sirianni is having. I've seen some videos of him having a good time, dancing and things on the sideline, and I can see why. He's looking good doing it. So maybe he's doing something right.
I mean, you just dress for the job that you want, right?
That's right.
I mean, I guess I rated Bill Belichick's wardrobe, so I mean,
Touche. But you're looking good, man. You're looking good.
I try. But with the Eagles locking in their position for championship weekend, that defense has been stifling, and they're a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, not to get too far ahead, the 49ers are really going to have their work cut out for them, especially with their young, dynamic rookie quarterback. Let's not make any mistake about that. But realistically, game in Philly, you got to feel good about your chances. They just came off a huge rival win in the playoffs. So what's Philly going to have to do in order to punch their ticket to the Super Bowl?
Man, I'll tell you what, D'Amico Ryans and the 49ers defense, and again, we were here watching the game, and we were like, who are we going for in these games? Because I don't have a dog in the fight anymore. But when that defense, and Nick Bosa is a genetic freak. I think he's a guy that can help his secondary by making pressure whenever it doesn't necessarily come, and maybe one-on-one situations, and he can get around guys. But even in the run game, he's crashing down, he's squeezing down, and he's making plays to not only just play the outside and keep the edge set, but they play very technical ball. And the thing is, I'm not going to sleep on, if I'm flipping a coin right now and I'm telling you who I think is going to win this game, I think the Eagles are going to take it just because Brock Purdy, I love the story. I mean, if he is this new era, not to say he's Tom Brady, but that last Mr. Irrelevant 7th-round pick, I mean, he's undefeated as a starter right now. It's mind-blowing. But Jalen Hurts, whether it's been at Alabama, it's been at Oklahoma, he's had good teams, and he's been able to win at a high level. I know, obviously, Tua, that whole story of him taking over. Jalen is a winner, and I think at this level, again, this guy that I'm looking like tonight, he is calling great games. He's doing the right thing and how he's utilizing Jalen Hurts' legs. Jalen's playing smart ball by sliding and getting out of bounds. But, man, it's going to be a matchup, and it'll be a chess matchup because this is what I love about playoff football, where it is the best of the best coaching defensively of how do you stop Jalen Hurts, and offensively, how do you attack the 49ers defense? That's why I'm like, this is a chess match that we're watching that lasts 4 to 5 seconds at a time, but when it hits, it hits. But I mean, Purdy has been able to do his thing. Like you said, Philly has their own defensive. I think they had 5 sacks yesterday. But I mean, it's gonna be a matchup. But what are your thoughts as far as what Philly has to do to get it and go to the Super Bowl?
Philadelphia's success has come off just the dynamic play of Jalen Hurts and the weapons that the Philadelphia Eagles surrounded him in the offseason. I'm very excited for the fact that the 49ers are going to be the one team that they match up well against.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these two really just are about almost mirror and mirror.
Mm-hmm.
I do give the slight nod to Philly's defense because realistically, they've had more sacks than the second best team, and I think that's maybe about 15 more than the second best team. So I'm not giving any predictions out, but I will say this. It's going to come down to just ball control. Whoever runs the clock and whoever commits the most turnovers wins this game.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, man, it's crazy to see that. Let's see here. Final 3 weeks of the season, the 49ers scored against the Commanders 37 points, Raiders 37 points. They scored 38 points against the Cardinals. They scored 41 points against the Seahawks. Obviously, they just scored 19 over the Cowboys yesterday. But it looks like when the Niners get rolling, they can score at will. And because there's so many options, man. And we've talked about, I think there was a comment earlier about Purdy, Kittle, Debo, McCaffrey. Like, they have so many options. and the offensive line as well. Like Trent Williams, there's a couple of Instagram pages I follow, just like offensive line, like technique, and just like he is a constant highlight. He is awesome. I know Mike McGlinchey, I think his name, is on the opposite side from Notre Dame. He'll be a free agent, maybe a guy the Titans could try and move to left tackle, move at right tackle, move MPF over. Who knows what happens there? But the familiarity with Ran Carthon, they've got talent everywhere, is what I'm saying, and they can score points. But again, if Philly gets going, I think it's just a matter of who scores first and who can match, who can keep up and chase. Because that's going to be, I think it'll be a high scoring game for sure. Again, no predictions, but I think it's going to be the game of the weekend for sure. Which the opposite side of the conference championships, it's not going to be a bad sight with obviously the Bengals and the Chiefs, because I think that could be a more of a 23-20 type of outcome in that one. What do you think about that game?
Well, I don't think either game's going to be a slouch. I mean, especially with Patrick Mahomes' situation. So you look at what's going to happen this week, and I think if you had to pick out of the two, the Philly 49ers game's definitely just the one most people are going to be looking forward to. I think the matchup between both teams, I think the defenses, the offense, even special teams, they're going to match up well against each other. So realistically, I think that's going to be your game of the week. And the Philadelphia Eagles are definitely going to have to come prepared. So, this is your only shot. Don't lose it.
Yeah. Skyline chili, man. It makes me laugh because I've never had Skyline chili. Have you had Skyline chili before?
I have had Skyline chili, and it's just really spicy meat.
Yeah, I've heard all types of things about it, but nothing ever good.
I mean, it is what it is. I guess if you've had a few drinks and you just want something quick on spaghetti or a hot dog, it's food.
Yeah.
It's like what? It's like generic Frosted Flakes. They're food.
It works for some people. They love it. It doesn't make sense to me. But yeah,
exactly.
What's our topic here with Joey Burrow, because he is on fire right now?
As you bring up Joey Burr, as it was a snowy Sunday at Buffalo, and unfortunately for a lot of us that favor the Buffalo Bills to win the Super Bowl, Joe Cool just comes in and just wrecks the party.
He sure
Not
did.
only for just Buffalo, but for anybody that was purchasing tickets for Atlanta, that went up in flames as well. So once again, the Bengals play spoiler against a pretty good Buffalo team. Trey, what is it that makes Joe Burr just the face of the NFL?
He is,
and I'll say it.
He is ice cold. No, I agree with you. I think he's making that type of ascension where, this is the second year now. Obviously, his start in his career, year one had the ACL injury, I think it was, but coming back in 2 out of 3 years, potentially seeing 2 back-to-back Super Bowls with a team, that's got its issues, it's got its holes, but he's able to overcome those things. Like a lot of Titans fans, again, to point back to our conversation, they think that a quarterback's going to fix everything right now, where the Bengals have addressed enough of the offensive line issue right now. They had a good enough quarterback that if the Titans are where the Bengals were a year ago, you got a spotty offensive line, but you're able to win games, and you obviously be able to make it to a Super Bowl. That'd be ideal, but that's a lot of work for Ran Carthon and for Mike Vrabel to do. But I think Joey's got the talent. I think Joey's got the look at that photo of him in the snow, just like doesn't get fazed by anything. The intro, video of him throwing these sweet passes and spinning around, looking super dope. Like he cares about winning, and his team respects and believes in him. And I think everybody in that team thinks that they can. And here's the crazy thing about this Bills game: from very early on, the win probability portion changed from 50.8% in favor of the Buffalo Bills. This was after the Bengals scored. I think the Bengals held the Bills out 3 and out, and then from there on, the Bengals just took the probability favor as far as the outright winner. And again, what was it? Was it defensive issues? Was it turnovers? Was it pressures that we haven't quite seen yet? But I mean, when you can score like they can score, it doesn't matter. And again, Joe Mixon getting in there, able to match the balance of the passing game with a good, solid running game. He was running hard in the snow. And yeah, you got to have that, man. You got to have that to be able to do what they're doing.
And give a lot of credit to that defense. Cincinnati's defense becomes just another kind of monster when the postseason rolls around. And in 2 consecutive years, their defense has been just a difference maker. They shut down Josh Allen in that receiving core.
Mm-hmm.
And
sorry, go ahead.
Well, making them a real quick point, we knew the Bills were going to have to try and run the ball to try and at least spread it out a little bit, but they couldn't even do that because the Bengals defense was just so suffocating at that point. So realistically, with Buffalo fans waking up today and just, I know y'all feel cursed. I mean, that's a whole nother show and we'll get into that another day. But unfortunately, little trouble in paradise. As it would seem, our favorite Diggs didn't want to hang around for the press conference, packed up and left, apparently. So is there trouble in paradise in Buffalo?
Yeah, deja vu when it's like this. Like last year, there was a shootout win or a loss to the Chiefs. Obviously, AFC Conference Championship game, went to the Bengals. We know the history from there. But when you're favored like they are, in a division like they are, when you have the ability like they do, I mean, obviously Dawson Knox has been a fantastic tight end since he's come in. Gabe Davis, like you said, Stephon Diggs getting frustrated. But they're able to do what they want to do. But when they can't, and here's the crazy thing, for the Bengals to go on the road in the snow to the old Bill Mafia hub where everyone's coming out and you know they're getting as loud as they can and they just have their way. That says a lot about a team, man. That says a lot about a team to be able to go in there. And again, last year we were saying like, hey, this team is a young, aspiring, organization and really getting there. You're looking at a team in the Bengals that could take over that conference or that division right now and hold that thing down, like the Titans are trying to hold the AFC South down. But yeah, I mean they're if they can make some really good moves again to the offseason of bolstering the offensive line and improving, which again they've been able to address issues and get better. It makes me fearful of what the AFC could look like to try and get to the top, where you even get to the Super Bowl, let alone win it. So they're getting better. The good get good, and the rich get richer. I mean, it's all that kind of stuff. They're going to get better, and we have to try and keep up immediately for the Tennessee Titans.
Agreed. And for the Tennessee Titans, it is a situation of keeping up with the Joneses. But unfortunately for the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Cool continues to get cooler as the season progresses.
Yeah.
Hitting on our next game, of course, I feel this was really the game of the week, and it lived up to the billing. Cowboys fans smashing their TVs all over the internet. It's just pandemonium as we speak. 49ers, Cowboys. I always love this matchup. I think it's a great rivalry, and when these two teams match up in the playoffs, it's great TV. So, Trey, the 49ers undoubtedly have one of the best quarterback stories right now in the league. Brock Purdy has just come out of nowhere and just taken the league by storm. But I think it's also important that in this game, he didn't have to do anything spectacular. And I think that's just a very solid selling point of how mature he is for a quarterback. So realistically, the 49ers heading into Philadelphia, what's one of the biggest positives that they have going into this matchup on championship weekend?
Oh, I mean, it's the talent on that roster throughout it, and they've got the depth, which, again, I think I'm just like the Ran Carthon train needs to pick up steam because, again, we saw John Robinson bring Mike Vrabel talent that would hit sometimes. Sometimes it would go drink and then do donuts in the middle of Broadway in the night, and that was a horrible experience. But now you have a guy that has a track record of deep scouting, deep personnel experience. But look, I mean, Brock Purdy is the story of how this team just has depth at every point, and they have so many playmakers, man. I mean, like, Debo can line up in the back, while McCaffrey can line up in the slot, And then outside you got Ayuk, Jawan Jennings is making plays. I mean, you have so many guys that can play their roles and do their stuff. And then that's just the offensive side of the ball, right? I mean, Robbie Gould's going to make almost every kick you ask him to make. And then Nick Bosa. I mean, yesterday, Fred Warner, he literally can do it all. I saw him pass coverage. He was keeping up. I think it was with Debo or maybe it was CMC coming in the middle. But I mean, the guy is just flying all over the field. Again, the secondary, Ward, he's playing lights out ball where one play he had batted the ball down and he was on the ground on his stomach. He was like swimming. It was a nice little funny moment. But I mean, they're playing sound, good football. And like you mentioned, the quarterback situation. Like, do you go with Trey Lance? Do you go with Jimmy G? Do you keep Brock Purdy, or do you go after old Tom Brady and get the Tom Brady sweepstakes? Like, we'll see what happens, but I mean, Brock Purdy's story is pretty incredible for, I mean, just NFL headlines, let alone now we're talking about NFC championship games and potentially Super Bowls with Mr. Irrelevant as the quarterback. That's just mind-boggling.
And unfortunately, with Dallas Cowboys, it's a completely different situation. Turnovers for the selling point here, and once again, the Cowboys find themselves in another quick exit. It is their 7th consecutive game where they're booted from any type of playoff game, from the wild card to the divisional round. They just can't get over the hump, apparently, Trey. So what are the Cowboys going to have to do heading into next season?
I was thinking about this because the Cowboys, obviously, I think I saw a stat today that now Dak and Tony Romo have the same winning record in the playoffs. They've both been to 3 NFC championships, I think it was, 2 or 3. They've never been able to get past, the divisional round, not the NFC championship. They've both been in the NFC divisional round 3 times and both failed. Obviously, things changed for Romo as time went on and never really came of it. But, I mean, there's a lot going on there. And obviously, Jerry Jones is going to put his hand in probably places he doesn't need to. But Dak Prescott's going to get a lot of flack, a lot of hate for this. I've already seen jerseys burning and, all the Cowboys fans fighting in the streets. I mean, it's a hard time to be out there. But, I mean, the Cowboys have to figure out something, especially with the Giants getting better, especially with the Eagles remaining dominant. So we'll see what happens there. But, I mean, what do you make of it as far as the Cowboys?
I hope they just have a really good insurance plan on their TVs.
Touche. Especially the new curved ones that are $1,000, whatever they are.
Well, luckily, some of the other ones that I have seen get busted looked kind of just, cheap ones.
Yeah,
and I'm not trying to say anything to Cowboys fans. I'm just saying TV looks kind of cheap. I'm just going to call it cheap. So let's just call it what it is.
Yes, sir.
And finally, finishing out our top news, of course, one of the biggest offseason stories that hasn't even started because we're not even in the offseason yet. The quarterback carousel is going to go full swing, and the 2 biggest names on there could potentially be looking for new homes. So, Trey, realistically, Tom Brady looks like that he may be on his way out of Tampa, and Aaron Rodgers very well could be on the move too, since Green Bay could very well look at a trade opportunity if the deal's good.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the 2 quarterbacks potentially moving, what do you think the best destination for the 2 of them would be?
Well, off the top of the dome, I think, like I was saying, Brock Purdy, the whole story there, Jimmy G, they got a lot of options at quarterback, and there's also the greatest of all time that's becoming available, who's talked about being with San Francisco, growing up as a California kid. Like, that seems very romantic and poetic for him to be able to go back west to do all the above. But, I mean, that's where I would probably place my money if I were to think about it. I know the Raiders, there's rumors that he was talking about, what was it, on the shop or whatnot with LeBron James talking about, you're going to stay with that MFer, talking about Derek Carr with the Raiders. There's rumors, or was it Fitzpatrick, wherever he was? I have no idea. But, I mean, Tom Brady's going to go probably where Tom Brady wants to go. I do think it's a massive, massive reach for him to land with the Tennessee Titans. On the other side there, I know today they were talking national news about how the Packers have been very vocal about how much they liked Jordan Love. Obviously, they drafted him pretty early a few years ago and want to probably see what's available there. So there is active conversation happening for Aaron Rodgers to be dealt, or they're taking calls and having conversations to see who's kicking the tires. Again, like for him, if they were able to make a swap, say Derek Carr for Aaron Rodgers and a pick or two on the Raiders side, they would give the Packers a pick or two. That could make sense because that reunites obviously Aaron with Devontae Adams, but they've also given up a ton to get Devontae Adams last year. So how much can they really work there with them? But Aaron Rodgers, I mean, I think. Again, like Devontae Adams left the Packers because they're the unknown with Aaron Rodgers. Like we have no idea what he could do. He could go back to the jungle in Colombia and hit ayahuasca again and fight the dragon, and that could be the whole offseason story again. But I mean, yeah, we'll see, man. I wouldn't be surprised if he just sits tight and says, "Look, I'll finish it out one more year, and or you move me to this place." I don't know because I again. Sitting last year watching John Robinson deal off A.J. Brown has me thinking anything can happen. So we'll see. But what are your thoughts as far as these two quarterbacks? Where could they land?
Well, I'll start with Brady, and I think the obvious one would definitely be the Raiders. I think clearing out Derek Carr at this point basically means they're going to just try and go all in. It's basically just in the gambling town of the entire world. Of course, they're going to put a big gamble on this one. So, of course, it makes perfect sense. Raiders have plenty of weapons. Josh McDaniels, Brady's longtime coordinator. Mm-hmm. It just seems too perfect. And not to mention, new stadium, new digs. And, of course, I think this gets done. So it just makes too much sense. Now for Aaron Rodgers, and shout out to Lou Man, by the way, for being on the show as always. I'm going to swap this, Lou Man. I like Rodgers going to Miami at this point. I think Miami knows they have the pieces. They have the defense. They just need an arm. And I could definitely see them putting a package together for the Packers that might be too good to pass up on.
I think, I mean, I don't know if the Dolphins are going to be completely done with Tua yet. Obviously, what was it, 2 or 3 concussions in one season is like massive red flags as far as quarterback protection. So the idea of them going after a guy who's obviously, I mean, this is a relative term where a quarterback is aging because the GOAT on the right-hand side, Tom Brady's still playing at 45. Like, it's nuts. But it shows that you can do it if you're taking care of yourself because, again, Aaron Rodgers is getting up there, but I mean, how many more years can these guys just tack on? Because, like, Tampa Bay is looking at right now. They've been sitting at home for a couple weeks now. Didn't really have great success. They fired their OC. Like, they're pretty much going through the overhaul. So it's like, do you want your team to be that organization that 2 years after Tom Brady feels like playing, or however it goes, that you're just kind of cast aside and just kind of, I don't know. I want a team that's going to be able to buy in, build in, and build for the long term. And that's where I think, again, a lot of teams have the opportunity, but the Titans have the ability to land a quarterback, whether it's this year or next year, that will set them up for the future. Where, again, like Josh Allen, obviously Burrow on rookie deals. Lamar Jackson's going through it right now, but they've had some good football in that rookie era or span of his contract, of his rookie contract. Titans have to get on that so they can free up some money and get some good players in here and surround young talent, again, like Brock Purdy, and win championships. So we'll see.
That's basically what it'll boil down to with these two. And at this point, for some teams, it's a 1-year deal to try and just cash in and see if you can hit the big one.
Yeah.
Of course, Tom Brady doing that with the Bucs the first go around. Not a very bad idea for some teams. And let's just say, I'll just be honest, I didn't say they were the smartest of ideas for these teams, but let's be honest. One of the Raiders and the Dolphins had smart ideas in the last decade.
True. But I mean, like you're saying, you never know what could happen in a league where a good quarterback is as like needed and as a hot a commodity as they are. And when you're desperate or the window is there, and like you said, for Miami, they just need an arm just to get it over the hump. And if it gets you a Super Bowl or a deep playoff push and gives you the chance and it makes sense, why not? Absolutely, why not?
It's definitely worth the effort if it's worth the payout. And of course, I definitely wanted to thank Trey for joining us on the show tonight. Didn't know if you had to go or not, but we wanted to make sure that we thanked you for joining us tonight on the show. And of course, wanted to let you give a shout out to the audience, let them know to find all your great content at and what you're up to.
I appreciate it. Yeah, my kids are upstairs probably watching the movie and ready to go to bed, so we're going to have to get them down. But appreciate you having me. It's been a blast to talk Titans. But yeah, you can find me. My handle's on the graphic there. Anywhere on Twitter, obviously. Chatt Tenn Sports is our company that we've started up for content. We've got events that we actually do as well, and we'll get some of those things cooking. We're also a part of Channel. So if you know channel_TN on Twitter, you can actually follow them for some great Vols content. But we're a part of their podcast network. But right now, we've actually just gotten onto Substack, so we are actually writing content there that you can actually have delivered to your email inbox. We're not spamming you. You can actually sign up, test it out, unsubscribe if you want to. But putting out some thoughts on that platform as well. But we're on YouTube as well. We're on Twitch. We're on Facebook, Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're everywhere that you are. And yeah, man, thank you so much, you guys, for having us as far as Titan Upload Network and obviously the Power Hour. Appreciate it. It's been fun, and please have me back anytime.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, man. And hopefully the kids won't give you any trouble going to bed. So.
I appreciate it, man. You have a great rest of your night.
Take care, buddy. Thanks for being on the show tonight. And of course, everybody, we'll take a quick 30-second break. And when we come back, I'm going to give my thoughts on Ran Carthon, what I think he's going to do with the Tennessee Titans, and I want to hear what you want to think. Because, of course, I got to get to the chat and make sure you guys give me your opinions. You've been giving good opinions all night, so let's keep it going. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. We'll be back in 30 seconds. The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Thank you for joining me tonight on this Monday evening. And, of course, a special thanks to Tres Winn of Chatt Tenn Sports for joining us tonight on the show. Great having him on. Does great work. Great podcast. Make sure you check that out and follow and subscribe on his Twitter page and Instagram. Dude stays busy and he's putting out good content. And, of course, thank you for joining me tonight on the show. We are a part of the Titan Upload Network. And, of course, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at the Power 615. And don't forget, of course, the Titan Upload Network is exclusively on Facebook. So to follow all of your favorite Titan Upload Network cast members, that's the best place for you to go. And we're putting out new content daily for you to make sure that you have the best of opportunities to catch everyone. We're staying busy for you. That's what we do. And before we get out of here, of course, I've got to give my 2 cents on the entire situation that went down last week. As we all know, Ran Carthon has been officially named the Tennessee Titans GM, and I feel that it is a situation the Titans are going to come into with a lot of questions this year. And I want to know what you guys think. Definitely hit up on the chat. I want to get your opinions and what you think Ran Carthon is going to do and what's the first order of business. So Titan Fox says, I still don't understand why Tennessee is dancing so delicately around the cap numbers while other teams are throwing out $230 million deals left and right. And I mean, Fox, it's really just one of those situations. They're just kind of weighing everything out. They want to see what they're going to do long term. And right now they're in the red. So Tennessee doesn't really have any room to move until they start deciding who they want to keep, who's going to be expendable. It's a situation they're going to have to try and just figure out, and that's Ran Carthon's biggest number one job right now is to try and see what kind of money they can scrape together heading into free agency, heading into the draft, and potentially even just signing a few guys off the street. So realistically, it's going to be a starting point at where they think is going to be the most efficient point to go. And you have to look at it this way. Tennessee's not completely going through a major rebuild. And I like Ran Carthon came and said, this really isn't a rebuild. And realistically, it's not. The defense is still going to be intact. Jeffrey Simmons has still got a 5-year option they can put into play. And if he doesn't play on it, realistically, it's just something they'll get to the table quicker. The biggest contracts that I think they have to work out in terms of starters, you have David Long, you have Nate Davis, potentially Nick Westbrook-Akina if you want to keep him like on a third or fourth receiving slot, which is the more realistic point for him. So I think you just look at that from that standpoint. It's just trying to figure everything else out. What are we going to do with the offensive line? What are we going to do at quarterback? What are they going to do to try and find somebody that could potentially be a playmaker that they could trade for? And I'll be honest with you, I don't know if the Titans are going to be really active in free agency. And if they are, it's just going to be for just a lot of players you're probably not going to be very familiar with. And that's just going to be the truth. Because right now, Tennessee's just trying to get the offensive line back into place where it's a key contributor and not a problem. And I think that's the biggest problem. Now you look at wide receiver, that's the next thing. Realistically, when you look at Treylon Burks, who's the next man up? We don't know if Robert Woods is going to be here. Kyle Phillips spent most of the season hurt. I'd like to see him progress, but it's really going to be a situation where we're going to have to sit and just knock these things out one by one, and that's going to be some of the biggest things on Ran Carthon's list. And Fox says, Long, Davis, Simmons are critical to resign, but we can gain a lot of cap space by dropping Dupree, Lewan, and a few others. And I agree with that. I think Dupree and Lewan are going to be big names that are going to go. And there's definitely a few other names. I mean, Ryan Tannehill also falls in that line, especially once the June 1st cap place comes into hit. And then you basically have a better situation and a more workable situation at that. So what the Titans are going to have to do, and what Ran Carthon's going to have to do, and his staff as well, it's basically they have to come up with a good plan in the draft. And they're going to have to hit on some picks. Because realistically, J-Rob did good in his first few years. And then everything just started getting wishy-washy. If you're not hitting on your first-round picks, then something's wrong. And it was becoming too obvious and too big a problem. I didn't have a problem with Caleb Farley, but I didn't think the Titans should have drafted him. When you're trying to restructure and continue a Super Bowl run, you have to add talent. And Farley was just a huge red flag. And that was just a big part that I really had a hard time accepting. It's all right to take chances on players, but realistically, the Titans had a lot of things they had to fix. And really, that was one of the situations J-Rob just didn't do a good job at. And I think that's the biggest challenge Ran Carthon's going to have to go forward and really just hit the nail on the head on this one. And the hardest part is it's going to be a situation that's going to continue to be something that's just built on. It's not going to be fixed in 1 year. It's going to take at least a few classes in the draft to get these problems situated. It's going to take some pretty nifty trades. And realistically, we might end up seeing a few key guys end up on the trading block if that fixes the problem. And I'm not trying to speculate anything, but I mean, that could be an option down the road. And realistically, it might be. But going forward, it just feels like a better situation. It feels like that there's, with everything that has to be done and the inconsistency and everything that goes forward with this, Ran Carthon's coming into a good situation. He's been in at least 3 different rebuilding situations, one with Atlanta, one with the Rams, and with the 49ers. So it's not like he's walking into this blind. And you feel a little more consistent. You feel a little more relief that he's been in this situation. And one of the things I enjoyed about the 49ers Cowboys game was this was like watching a scouting game. Because you got to think, especially with some of those contracts coming up for the 49ers, Ran Carthon's going to look at some of those guys. And they could very well be viable options for the Titans. So anybody with a contract coming up and could potentially fill a hole for the Titans, that's worth taking note. And Fox says J-Rob was too literal with taking chances on injured players. It worked with Big Jeff. That was a diamond in the rough. I think Rand chooses better based on his history. And that's the thing. Rand believes in scouting. He believes in the scouts, but he's also a believer in analytics. And that's something that the Titans haven't been utilizing for more than basically the entire tenure of J-Rob. It's not to discount what scouts have done. It's to help give you a tool to assess talent in another way. And I think that's where Rand's going to have success because he knows what it is to be a scout and he knows what it is to use analytics. It's consistency. You build that through using the tools at your disposal, and that's where you have success. And that's why the 49ers have been successful. That's why the Rams were successful when he was there, and that's why the Falcons were successful when he was there. So going forward, I just want to see the Titans utilize all the tools at their disposal. And it's not going to be an easy situation. It's not going to be a one fix kind of deal. We know what's got to happen. And in this situation, it's going to take time. So be patient. Rand's not going to fix everything in 1 year. But if he can get Tennessee at least back to the point where they're winning games and they're contending again, then that moves the needle. But realistically, there's a lot more in place. There's a lot more that needs to be done. So it's just going to take patience from everybody. And as much as I want to see this team get back to where they were and start being more contendable, realistically, there's a lot to take on. But I do think Ran Carthon is the right guy for the job. All right, I'll take a quick 30-second break, and when I come back, we'll close out this show. So catch our breath, and we'll be back in 30. The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you once again for joining us tonight on the show. Thank you so much, everybody, for making this a great show tonight. Special thanks to Tres Winn of Chatt Tenn Sports for joining us tonight. Very fun having him in and talking football. We'll have to get him back in soon. But, of course, special round of applause to you guys. Thank you so much for everything that you do and the support that you give the show. It's because of you we keep doing this, and it's because of you we're going to continue to do this. And, of course, being a member of the Titan Upload Network, I feel it being my duty and, of course, my utmost responsibility to give you a good show every night that I can. So, guys, let's go ahead and close the show out as we hit our new segment. and give you the last bits of news heading out.
Closing time.
Good night, losers.
And of course, one of the bigger news pieces for the Titans, Chris Harris, the defensive back coach for the Washington Commanders, could potentially be their new defensive backs coach, but they will have to wait because right now Harris could be up for a defensive coordinator position. And it's a situation that I think is going to be interesting because if Harris is hired, it could be a one and done kind of job. But as I've said before, I don't think it's out of the possibility if Shane Bowen has another strong year at coordinator, Bowen could be up for a head coaching job. And if he does, Chris Harris is right there. Chris Harris could move right into your defensive coordinator position. And that wouldn't be a bad option to have. So realistically, this will definitely be a fun situation, I think, especially with his track record and the work that he's done with the Commanders over the last few years. They have been one of the better he's been one of the better coach defensive backfields in the NFL. I can't speak. I'm sorry. But a good situation to keep a monitor and an eye on. And, of course, looking forward to championship weekend. Of course, we have the 49ers and the Eagles in the NFC and in the AFC. We will have the Kansas City Chiefs returning for a fifth consecutive year and the Cincinnati Bengals coming back for the second year. And I'm not going to give any predictions, but I am going to say this. We're definitely in for a very, very good day of football. And realistically, I like the 49ers and I like the Eagles matchup better. We'll have to keep an eye on Mahomes and the high ankle sprain. I'm sure he's going to go, but realistically, there's a lot of questions there, and it's a situation where you know it's going to just be all about the ankle. So we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. But I do think it's a situation where if Mahomes can go, he'll go. And of course, guys, once again, thank you for joining us on the show tonight. And don't forget, if you like to see more of my work, I am on Fansized, the Titan Size Network. I try and put out articles every month, and I've got a few kind of sitting on the back burner that I do plan on getting out. So definitely check that out, and all the other great contributors there. They do great work. And of course, with our great-minded workers out there just getting that done for you with fans, that's all about getting the good content out there. So that's what they do there at Titan Size, and they continue to do it. So make sure you check them out. And of course, as always, we are a part of the Titan Upload Network. And of course, our new network page is officially on Facebook. Check us all out from Titan Upload, Titans for Life. Ryan Harris of the Jump Pass Podcast, Titan Rossi, Brian Johannes, our draft expert, and of course, the Power Hour as well, giving you some pretty good content as much as we possibly can. And don't forget, guys, we're putting it out every day for you. Thank you for joining me once again on the show. I want to thank Tres Winn for joining us on the show tonight. Make sure you check him out at Chatt Tenn Sports. On his podcast, he does fantastic work. So, guys, we will be back next week. And, of course, we'll figure out who the matchup with the Super Bowl will be. And it's going to be a pretty good week of football. So thank you once again for joining us tonight, guys. I'm Michael Bishop of the Power Hour. And as always, take care and tighten up.
Thank you for watching this live presentation of the Titan Upload Network.